Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is David Weisberg. I am the CEO of the Federation for Jewish Philanthropy of Upper Fairfield County, and I'm so delighted to be together with all of you today as I see our attendee list continuing to grow for a very important conversation that we're calling Damaged or Under Construction Bridge Building Between Israeli Jews and Arabs. And we have such a good registration today from people from throughout southern New England and beyond. And a big part of that is thanks to our wonderful partners. And so before we start our conversation, I want to thank our partners at the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island, the Jewish Federation of Eastern Connecticut, the Jewish Federation of Greater Hartford Jewish Community Relations Council, the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, the Jewish Federation of Western Connecticut, and the Jewish Federation of the Berkshires. It's so good to be together with all of you and all of our partners in our larger community. And indeed, we have registrants and attendees not only from across southern New England, but from across the country. I saw registrations from Arizona and Tennessee and Georgia. And so wherever it is you're watching from, we're so glad that you can join us today for this important conversation. It occurred to me just this morning that we're at a very interesting week in the Jewish calendar right now in reference to this conversation, perhaps. Just this past weekend, we observed Tisha B'Av, which is one of the saddest days of the Jewish year. And this coming weekend, we'll be observing Tu B'Av, which is a day that we're celebrating love. And so indeed, we're in the week right now of moving from sadness to love. And it seems to me that there's an analog between the work with the work that our panelists are doing, with, if not perhaps moving from sadness to love, moving from strangers, if not enemies, to neighbors, and ideally to friends and partners. And that is can be a very, very fragile process. I think about as a child building a building out of blocks, and you can spend a long time trying to build the tallest and fanciest building out of blocks, but it takes only one bump, one little nudge for the whole thing to come crashing down. And so that's what we want to explore today, is the work that's been done in building bridges between Israeli Jews and Arabs, and whether the recent crisis just 2 months ago in Israel has damaged that construction, or whether it's still an ongoing process. And so I'm really feel very privileged today to introduce two wonderful panelists. First, Asaf Ron. Asaf has served as director of the Beit HaGefen Arab Jewish Cultural Center in Haifa since 2010, where he works with community leaders, clergy, and the municipality to direct initiatives for a coexistent life in Haifa. Prior to this position, Asaf directed the education department of the Gilboa Regional Council, where he initiated activities for stimulating partnerships amongst the Arab and Jewish schools in the region. And indeed, he's played and continues to play a significant role with our partnership region of Afula Gilboa in Israel. He holds a BA in education and in Israel studies and an MPA in public administration from Haifa University. And from 2000 to 2003, Asaf served as an Israeli emissary with our neighbors in Hartford, Connecticut. And my friend, Dr. Tareq Abu Hamed, who's the incoming executive director of the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies, an organization that I know quite well and used to work with. So I've known Tareq for over 10 years now. We've had a friendship, and there he currently serves as the academic director and the head of the Center for Renewable Energy. And as we said, will soon become the Arava Institute's executive director. A Palestinian citizen of Israel, Tareq served as the vice chief scientist and director of engineering research at the Israeli Ministry of Science, Technology, and Space. He holds a PhD in chemical engineering from Ankara University and conducted his first postdoctorate research at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, where he worked in the environmental sciences and energy research department. Tareq has published profusely in a wide variety of journals and has received several awards. Not only are these two very accomplished panelists, but they're also just two very, very nice people who will hopefully be joining me on screen right now. There is Asaf, there is Tareq. Asaf, Tareq, it's so good to be together with the two of you and to have introduced the two of you to each other today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, David, for having us.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
So just to give us a baseline about your organization and what you exist to do prior to 60 days ago. Asaf, start for us. What is Beit HaGefen? What do you exist to do?
Beit HaGefen is, if you log into our website, you see on the first thing you see three words: building shared society or promote shared society. And Beit HaGefen is a cultural center, Arab Jewish cultural center, and we have a lot of departments, from an Arab-speaking theater to a library that serves Arab-speaking around Haifa and Haifa, to other 5 departments like culture, art gallery, contemporary art gallery, education, tours, to know the communities in Haifa, because Haifa is very heterogenic. Jews, Arabs, are Palestinians, and many ethnic groups within the Jews, also Christian and Muslims in Haifa among the Arab Palestinians. So our mission statement is really to try to promote a shared society, which is a value versus mixed city. Mixed city is a statistic situation. It's not, and shared society is a value. It's living together, sharing, planning together, building equality. And that's what we try to do through a lot of art, education, and culture.
And give us a practical example, a program that you're most proud of, something that you would go around and share this story of a demonstration of the work that Beit HaGefen does.
I'll give you very short 3 different kinds of programs. One is we're having already 8 or 9 years, a very successful Arab Jewish youth club, about 150 to 200 kids a year, 10 to 12 graders who are sharing their love to art or photography or leadership groups, and serving the community together, but they're meeting once a week for a year. Some of them stays for 2 or 3 years. So it makes a real difference in their life about how to know each other and really to become friends. This is the education field. The art field, we have a new, very interesting art wing for art and education, which is all the wing is dealing with, through art pieces, fine art pieces of pluralism thinking. And you have to see it, so it's a lot to speak, so I won't say more. And this last one, I'll tell you about the project we did a year ago with the support of the American Embassy. We had 3 groups, one in Lod, one in Jerusalem, one in Haifa, of women artists who came from conservative societies, which mean mostly religious societies, are Palestinian, Christian, and Muslim, Druze, Jews, and they work together a year how to cope making art in a conservative society as women. So it's also gets them together, get to know each other. The end was a big exhibition in our gallery, but it's also a year of group meetings and working together to really get to know each other.
Wonderful. Tareq, the Arava Institute, help everyone understand what it is and what it exists to do.
Okay, so the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies is a leading environmental studies and research program institute in the Middle East. It houses accredited academic programs, research centers, and international cooperation initiatives. We focus on a range of environmental concerns and challenges. Our mission is to advance cross-border environmental cooperation in the face of the political conflict that we have in our region. We do that to ensure that the shared environmental resources of the region, when I say the region, I mean Israel, Jordan, Palestine, and the neighbors in this region of the world. These environmental resources of the region will be protected from further degradation and loss. Our scarce environmental resources will no longer be a source of conflict. And we want the cooperation model that we do here, the model of cross-border cooperation, to be a model for other regions around the world. Our student body is one-third, one-third, one-third. One-third Israeli Jewish students, one-third Arab students, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza, Jordanians, and sometimes we have students from Morocco. One-third international students, mainly from North America. And we actually try to use environmental research and studies to bridge between people, between communities, between research communities, between universities, research institutions in the region. We have 5 research centers. I will not name them now, but most of the work that we do in these research centers, it has the cross-border aspect of it. We, here in this region, we share the same air, we share most of the water resources, the aquifer. We have 16 cross-border streams in Israel. That means they cross from West Bank to Israel, from Israel to the West Bank, or even to Jordan. And we believe that nature knows no borders, and we do not have the luxury or the ability to work alone to solve environmental issues. That means you have to work with your neighbors. One country alone cannot succeed in this field.
Thank you, Tareq. And I just, I want to recognize the fact that you were the first Palestinian faculty member at the Arava Institute. You'll soon be the first Palestinian director of the Arava Institute. I know that was not the easiest thing to do, probably, and not the easiest decision to make. And so I just want to honor that fact of you being a courageous leader in this field. And I think that shouldn't go without mention. So I want to ask the both of you, going back 90, 120 days ago, let's take COVID out of the picture for a moment. 2 of you have been at this work for some time now of bridge building. How were you feeling? Hopeful that you were making progress? That this was, this was leading to a better society and a better future?
What we do all the years, you're asking?
Yeah. How were you feeling 90 days ago, 120 days ago, before the recent conflict? Were you feeling hopeful? Were you feeling like you were making progress?
I'm always saying, if you do this work, you must be truly optimistic or an idiot. Otherwise, what can you look at it? So you are hopeful all the time. I'm hopeful also now. Otherwise, I won't be there. I won't do my work like that. So I don't think something changed above maybe thinking about other strategies or more points, more challenges that we have now. But definitely, I'm feeling optimistic before and right now.
And Tareq?
Yeah, I'm always optimistic, and I believe in bridging between people using all the tools that we have. I was hopeful. I don't want to say I was naive. No, I think what happened in Israel, in the society in Israel, actually opened our eyes. I think we did not do mistakes, but we did not speak loud enough on the work that we were doing before the period of violence. I think we were doing the right things, but actually we did not use the space that we had in a way to prevent what happened in Israel. As I said, I'm always optimistic. I'm always hopeful, and we saw actually the reactions and the actions of our alumni, of our partners when the violence happened in Israel, and that showed us that we were on the right track.
Right. So let's talk about May, and let's talk about what happened in May. And from those who I've talked to, spoken to in Israel, they have almost consistently said what happened in the crisis in May is different than anything they've ever seen before. In as much as it wasn't just a conflict across borders, but it was a conflict within Israel's borders. And all of a sudden, those who had at least lived side by side were suddenly, erupting in violence in the streets, recognizing that the two of you, although you may have the same ideals, come with different narratives. What happened in May? What happened that was different, that caused this different kind of conflict in the streets?
Hey, Asaf, do you want me to start?
Yeah, I wanted to start. It will help me.
Yeah, actually, this is my opinion. Actually, what happened is a result of the silence that the normal people had in the country. The majority of people are against of what happened in Israel. When I say the majority of people, I mean on both sides. But we allowed the others, the fanatics on both sides, to use the whole arena and to express the anger. We were very busy in building bridges, but we did not look widely enough to the whole society in Israel. People actually, I'm talking about now about the Arabs in Israel. We know that they feel that they are not very well included in the Israeli society. They have some equality challenges, social challenges, economical challenges, but that actually is not an excuse to do what's been done in Israel. And as I said, we gave them the arena for the fanatic parts, and most of the people who were angry, who felt excluded, joined these kind of groups. We give hope. We are, as I said, we are hopeful, but I think that wasn't enough. And I think we need to actually talk more and speak loudly enough about the good work that we do at the Arava Institute and Beit HaGefen and the work of many other organizations that actually bring people together, try to build a shared society with all the things that shared society mean.
Thank you, Asaf.
Okay, I will, Tareq, and you're welcome to say what opinion about what I'm going to say. I will try to do it to look a little bit wider. Okay, so I agree with everything that Tareq said. And I also think it's much more complicated because I can see that the Israeli society, and I can speak only about Jews and only about Arab for themselves, is becoming extremer. And much of it is because the past 4 or 5 years of the way the government was leading the state. Okay, and I feel, and many others, or reality shows that the leadership was using a lot of fear, make us fear from a lot of things, doesn't matter what. The coronavirus was Iran, and on one hand. So it's a policy of keeping the people in fear, okay, one thing. The second thing is we didn't take care at all of the merging and merging violence within the Arab society. Because, unfortunately, I would say, as long as it's within the Arab society, well, and it was a stupid thing to do. First of all, because the people, whoever they are, needs to be safe. And second, it's never will stay in one place. Now, the third thing I think about what happened in May, and I learned it from my Palestinian friends, so I would love to hear your opinion, Tareq, is it was a combination of many, many small factors. For example, Eid al-Fitr with Jerusalem Day, Al-Aqsa with Hamas trying to ignite the area with Al-Aqsa. We, the Jews, we don't understand the meaning of Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount because of Al-Aqsa for the Muslims, even not the fanatic Muslims. They're really Muslim everywhere in the world and in Israel. And the way everything went together with the two holidays and the March of Jerusalem right in Eid al-Fitr, as the Muslim holidays, they are going to pray in the Temple Mount. And the way the Hamas used Al-Aqsa as a religious trigger. And everything together came to one day and it burst out. And I'm very much agreeing with Tareq, and I saw it in Haifa. Most of the people in the streets, the violence came from people who are the vast minority. Many of them were anyway with criminal records in the police. I can tell you in Haifa, it was it's ended very, very, very fast because the leadership, the people who are silenced, okay, the good civil leadership of the Arab community went out to the street in the second day and hauled the Shabab, the people, the kids, back to their homes. And they took responsibility because we are living together. And there is a lot to be done, a lot to fix. It's not equal yet enough, not equal at all in many places. But still most people wants to live together and know it's possible. It's happening every day. It's so dichotomy, the way the politics go and people behave.
I totally agree with you. It was a minority, but as I said, we left the arena for them, and actually they had, as they say, they had a good reason. Look, the Arab citizens make up of almost today it's 21% of Israel's population, but this minority never felt that it's a significant component of Israel's diversity, and they never felt that, the Israeli government sees them as great opportunity for growth and social development within Israel. So that anger, that sadness, actually was one of the major parameters or factors that helped ignite the situation in the region.
And I want to follow up just quickly and not take too much time on this, but are you concerned that this last situation was in a way precedent setting, and the next time there's this type of crisis, there will be the same violence in the streets, because that's become the new normal, that's become what's expected now?
Look, I think, go ahead, Asaf.
I don't look. We need not to underestimate what happened. It's bad, but it doesn't show anything for the future. It's very much depend on what will happen now. Don't forget, in the same time, I personally will sure there is no way there'll be the unity government now. Okay, there is partnership. The strange partnership never happened before. At the same time, 5 days after it all ended, look, the first time ever, and I can like it and I can like it less or more, doesn't matter. First time ever in 73 years, there is an Arab party in the coalition, 5 days after the riots. So it's all so mixed and so fragile. And so I remember when I was in Connecticut, I learned what Mark Twain said about Connecticut weather. And I think this is the politics in the Middle East. If you don't like it, wait. It will change in a second. Wait a second, it will be changed. Yeah. Who knows? It's very much about us to work top down and bottom up And if the government will give the feeling of inclusiveness, at least trying to, and if we will continue our work, and if the police will take care of the violence in the Arab street, the big violence, because there are violence everywhere, not only the, it's not so bad, but in the Arab street it's very bad now. So altogether can fix, and nothing is pointing the future now because of this riot, I think.
Right. So I want to get to your bridge building work, and I want to go to the metaphor that I gave in the introduction of, building this big, tall structure out of blocks, and you can spend a long time building it, but you give it one nudge and the whole thing collapsed.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened in your organizations when this big nudge happened to keep the bridges that you've been building from collapsing, to keep everyone from just running back to their own corners, Tareq?
Okay, actually, the first thing our students did, look, this violence happened during the Eid, the end of Ramadan and Shavuot, and the students were actually on vacation, but we had a significant number of students on campus. And the first thing they decided to do is to come together. And actually at the Arava Institute, we have peace building seminar that actually teaches and helps the students to deal with such situations. All students participate in this seminar. They reflect actually, this seminar reflects the Institute mission to generate capacity building for conciliation and cooperation. Even during the conflict, it's a weekly dialogue session facilitated by Palestinian, Israeli, and one international. The students discuss the conflict, they discuss the Independence Day, the Nakba, the settlements, the war, they go visit Yad Vashem, they go visit recognized and unrecognized villages in the Negev. So they are exposed actually to the reality of the Middle East, and they have the tools to deal with such situations. And our alumni also did the same thing. And this is the community that we build. The students did not go to their rooms. No, they decided to come to meet, to discuss what happened as one community. And actually, I want to remind all of us that when you feel pain, that means you are alive. But when you feel others' pain, you become a human, and that's actually what we do at the Arava Institute. The Israelis know the pain of the Palestinians know of the Arabs. They know the pain of the Israelis, and that helps us to build a community. So regardless what happens in the region, even during the war between Israel and Gaza, and that also impacts a lot the Arab society in Israel. They know how to deal with it. And as Asaf said, we are the silent majority. It's not a minority. We are the silent majority, and we have to speak louder to convince everyone that the shared society, the normal life between Israelis, between Jewish Israelis and Arab Israelis, is the normal thing that should happen in this country.
Tareq, for all of us who don't have the privilege of being in that room when the students or the alumni come together, can you describe what the dynamic is like? Is it speaking? Is it screaming? Is it finger pointing? Is it crying? What happens?
All feelings, really, sadness, anger. They shout, they cry, they just slap the door, they go to their rooms, but at the end of the day, they go to the same classroom, to the same dining room. Our institute is located in a kibbutz, so we have a shared dining room. At the end of the day, they go to the same dormitory and they share the same rooms. In this seminar, actually, they share personal experiences, family stories from different sides in the conflict. There is universal questions about identity, national ideologies, power, privilege, coexistence, personal responsibility. And in this seminar, actually, they are challenged to examine critically their own views, cultural values, and the understanding of the history. It's not simple. They are young group of people. You put them in one place. They create a community, but outside the kibbutz, outside the campus, there is violence within the Israeli society, and there is a war between Israel and Gaza. And we try to keep these Israelis and Arabs, Israelis and Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza as one group. So the tension is high, but as I said, they have the tools that helps them to deal with such situations.
Asaf, how about you? How do you keep your building from falling over?
Holding it. Well, you know, it's quite like in Tareq. We don't have students on campus. We don't have a campus of daily campus, but we do have our group of long-term groups. So we did a lot of Zoom meetings because some of the kids were afraid to travel within the city in the first few days. Some of the facilitators who live out of Haifa in villages were afraid to go out of home. Some of my workers, my Arab workers and Jewish workers that lived in the area near where the riots were afraid to go out of home. So what we did a few WhatsApp groups and Zoom groups, and we were very proud because as Tareq said, they got the capacity and skills to speak with a lot of honor and dignity to each other. Doesn't matter if they totally don't agree. And that's what's important. So the talk may be very harsh sometimes, but there is a lot of respect and listening to the other. And the other thing I did, and I had to do, is we had a big team, like about 30 people. So twice in 4 days, I gathered the team, whoever wants to come. I didn't force anyone. And we just sat in a circle and spoke. And everybody could speak about his fear. And you know what you find? Jews are sure that the Arabs doesn't afraid, and they're afraid because they're attacked. And the Arabs are sure the Jews are not afraid, and only they're afraid. And we are both scared to death. Okay? And it's amazing to this conversation is opening. People are crying. People are sharing stories about what they see from the balcony in the street, and people were just empathetic to each other. And then the last thing I did, had a call out, well, not call out, announced in our media, and Facebook and whatever, that we are open to any initiative. Because what we saw happen, like Tareq said, the vast silence majority was scared from it. Suddenly something like that happened. So many small initiatives came out. In the third day of the riots, we did a rally of 400 people in Beit HaGefen that people initiated and we hosted. And I wanted it to be like that. I didn't want to initiate. I wanted people to initiate. So since then we are helping a lot of small initiative of citizens of Haifa to get together Arab and Jews here with children here, conversation here, and we give the facilitation, we give the place, and we initiate and we continue with our work.
I wonder if either of you were challenged with what I would call generational difference. And so in Tareq's case, I would add, were there, Arab students whose parents said, "I don't care what you want to do, I want you to come home from this program now"?
Actually, this never happened during the last semester, and all students stayed on campus. And I want to share with you one thing that a Palestinian student said. He's from a village from Jenin, which is North and West Bank. I said, as a Palestinian living in a village in the West Bank, I never felt safe. But my last 3 months at the Arava Institute were the safest months of my life. And when the violence happened and the war happened, I felt unsafe again. But when I saw the support of the community of the students, the community of the staff, and also the kibbutz community, I understood that I was mistaken, and there shouldn't be a reason to feel unsafe here. It's look, as I totally agree with Asaf when he said the initiative started to come from people from different communities, because they understood that they have to do more. And this is the most important thing. It's like a wake-up call for all the people who believe in the things that we believe in, that we have to do more, that we are doing the right thing, and we do not have the luxury to give up and to lose the hope. It's our future. It's the future of both. it's one land, it's one future for both the Arabs and the Israelis, the Jewish people.
Right. So I want to talk about the future. Before I do that, I want to let our attendees know that in 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to open up the opportunity for you to ask questions of Asaf and Tareq. There are 2 ways that you can do that. One is to type a question into the chat feature, like I see Richard has already done. The other is to raise your virtual hand. If you raise your virtual hand, I can bring you live into our conversation. A heads up, if I do that and you have your camera on your computer, that means that you may be live on the screen for everybody to see as well. So I just want anyone to have that advanced notice that if you raise your hand and I bring you on, you may be on screen as well. So please feel free to start typing your questions into the chat or raise your virtual hands while I ask Asaf and Tareq about the path forward. And what I would ask is it the same path that you were on 90, 120 days ago? Or are you seeing that there's things that you need to do differently going forward? And where's your sense of hope now going forward after this most recent crisis?
I would say, basically, I don't think Beit HaGefen as Beit HaGefen need to change much, because most important as a problem is it not enough is going between the small peaks of riots. The most important days are the regular days. And we are doing a great job, and Tareq is doing a great job. And as he said before, there are many other organizations who does a great job. And we need to continue and be more loud. And I think we need to cooperate more between the organization, because this is to make it louder. So for example, I was going in the past 2 weeks ago to a new initiative of Forum of Shared Society Organizations. And I took upon myself now to chair a committee in the education field. How can you do more in the academy where there are many Arab and Jews together? How to train teachers to work, to facilitate and current events talk in the classroom, even only between Jews or only between Arabs. There is so much fear to do it in Israel society today. So we need to give them tools, what we call the toolbox for intercultural communication.
Exactly. And this is what actually we're trying to do at the Arava Institute. As I said, we have Israeli Arabs, and we plan to increase the number of Israeli Arabs in the program. We're planning to have also Arabic courses for our Israeli students, and also for the staff, to strengthen our alumni within Israel, the Israeli Arabs and also the Israeli Jewish alumni, to have joint initiative, joint startups, to work more actually with organizations that deal with the similar subjects, environmental subjects like the Galil Society and the Triangle Science Center, to have more interaction between organizations that deal with environmental issues. And we will continue the work that we do. But as I said, we have to make ourselves more popular, to speak louder, to enlarge our impact in the region.
I would add two examples of what we did last 2 weeks. We hosted a seminar for 80 medical doctors from Kupat Cholim. How do you say in English, Kupat Cholim? Medicals, whatever. Jews and Arabs. What happened in many places, we never speak about it, about living together. We just work together. So we open up living together through a very interactive workshop, not speaking about the riot, speaking about living together. And we hosted another seminar for 100 people from the Ministry of Welfare, of teams, Jews and Arabs together, who works with children at risk homes or something like that. So we give the chance to teams who are made up from Arab and Jews to speak about it, about living together and working together, and about their fears and about their sharing the space and living together.
Right. I think there's a sense here that the bad news will always make the headlines of the newspaper, but good news will be buried in the back. And so, how do you approach changing that so that the positive work you're doing becomes better understood?
Wow, this is very hard, because if you want to be on the headlines, you have either to do war or to do bad things, unfortunately. But I think the work that we do with the communities, with the people on the ground, with the young generations, especially, I think that's much more important than the headlines, to the grassroots activities, and sometimes also on track 2 or track 1 level, to involve politicians, to involve schools, ministries of education, regional cooperation. These things are much more important than the headlines, because then people will know that the headline is just a headline and the reality is totally different.
I agree. I can't change the communication. I tried years to bring them to cover our youth club, and they say, when they hit each other, call us.
So I want to read you a question from Richard. Richard writes, in the US, we increasingly talk about structural bias and discrimination against Blacks. Would you agree that Israel still struggles with structural bias against Israeli Arabs? And if so, what are some of the important steps towards addressing it?
Look, as an Arab, I actually, yes, we feel sometimes that we are class B citizens, unfortunately, and there are a lot of things that can be done. We see that we see some indicators that focus on the shared society issues such as social cohesion, inclusion, and integration is on the rise, but it's not enough. It's not enough at all. I think the government should invest more in the educational system. I'm not saying only with the kids, even with the teachers, to bring Jewish teachers in touch with Arab teachers, to try actually build more mixed schools, Jewish Arab schools. We have few of them in the country, and but the number is still very low. We have to invest more on education, in actual inclusion, on employment, in the high tech within Israel. The country actually succeeded in including the Arabs in the medical sector, and that's the only success to include the Arab society. But we need to do more on high tech, on law, and many other fields.
I totally agree with Tareq. For example, I was working in the education system, and I think, for example, if you take many more Arab teachers to teach in Jewish schools, it will be amazing. If I get into what HaGefen can do, so we do, when we allocate some funds for it, we do train clergy and even policemen about intercultural skills. So just to teach them how to approach the people. So, and you have to learn it. You have to learn it. You have to learn the culture. You have to respect. You have to know all the sides of a person. And I totally agree with the question of this Tareq. There is a structural bias, and the problem is, I think, it mostly is not by the law; it's by the behavior of the clergy and the people, and that's much more complicated to change.
Right.
You know,
So, go ahead.
Just one thing that you can do and can have a huge impact, just to teach Arabic in Jewish schools.
True.
And give it a priority and do it in the right way.
But you know, Tareq, I feel, at least in my place, and I think all over, there is much more curiosity and willingness to learn Arabic now. Not in schools, but among people. I see many people come to learn Arabic in our place now.
Right. So I'm on the one hand, really happy that I got to introduce the two of you today. But on the other hand, I asked myself, why did I have to introduce the two of you today? So what kind of structures do exist or can exist for bringing organizations like yours that are involved in this type of work together so that there's strength in your partnership, so that together you can raise the visibility of this kind of work?
We are really grateful for that, and I've been several times in Beit HaGefen. We run open days in Beit HaGefen when we recruit students. I'm aware of their activity, but actually this is one of the lessons that we learned, that we have to unite our forces and to build the programs together, because we come from different fields. There are a lot of similarities, and together we can be much stronger. And this is actually a great opportunity to start thinking on how we can both, the Arava Institute and Beit HaGefen, how can we do things better?
I agree, and I want to give you also an optimistic point of view. I'm sure Tareq is acquainted and partner with institutes who is doing some kind of his kind of work, and I am certainly partnered with a lot of nonprofits in Israel are doing this kind of social work we are doing, and we do try to gather more. But the problem is mostly that all of us are very into our daily work and fundraising, and everybody's afraid that if you go together you lose something. But we definitely, at least I took upon myself, and now I tell you I'm chairing a committee of the organization like that, to try to combine, even if it's just to, even to, איך אומרים, טארק, למפות את כל הארגונים שעובדים.
To map.
To map. Wow, it's easy. To map all the organization, we'll be surprised how many there are, and then gather them with groups who are doing equal things, and then try to get together. So it's all things we need to do, but probably we need to get another organization that will do it.
Yeah, it's shared society is one of actually priorities of me when I become the executive director. It's one of the top priorities that I have on my agenda.
Right. So listen, Israel is a complicated country. I don't have to tell the two of you that. This is a complicated country. We spend a lot of time here talking about what our government doesn't do. There's a lot of our government does do. And so, Tareq, you were a high-ranking official in the Ministry of Science. Like, what are the best things that the Israeli government is doing to advance shared society, to support the work of your organizations, and how can it build upon those things?
Look, I think one of the things that I did when I was at the Ministry of Science, that I increased the budget for the minorities in Israel, the budget for scholarships for Arab students to pursue graduate studies in Israel. We started a program called like Engineer Ambassador. It's like Arab engineers that go to high schools and encourage students to study engineering in order to include them in the high tech in Israel. The Israeli government is doing that very well, but the continuation is very important, and it doesn't end with a university certificate. You have to include these people into the job market.
I remember 2 years ago, there was a big big campaign on TV about recruiting Arab workers to all the workplaces, and they said, like we should say, that it's being heterogenic in a workplace is giving you more power. So there's a lot of good things that are happening, a lot of stipend, a lot of many things. It's not enough. It's not enough, but there are many good intentions. I can tell you in the field of culture that in the last 5 years, the budget for Arab sector for cultural activities grew amazingly in the right-wing governments. So things happen. But I think it's not, first, it's not enough, and it's not like planned as a big, nobody is looking from above it and planning it as a one whole. It's parts and parts and parts and parts and parts. So hopefully this government will do a little bit better, with the help of the Arab party within the government and with others.
So Susan has a question, which I'm sure both of you are really not going to like. She asks, how can Americans support your organization's work? What a terrible thing to ask the two of you. So what can we do to help the Arava Institute and Beit HaGefen do your work individually? And I'd expand that to ask, how can we as Americans advance the idea of an advanced support of shared society in Israel?
Actually, one of the most important things that you can do is actually initiate visits to Israel that include activities of shared societies, to expose the American Jewish to such nice activities. And I think what you hear in the background is the call for the prayer. And the other thing is actually to help us increase our impact by having more projects with related to shared society, to have the ability to provide scholarships for both Jewish and Arab students from Israel.
Yeah, I agree. For us, it's more being able to do more programs, but definitely visiting is a lot. So we have a lot of groups coming now. Because of coronavirus, it stopped. But we had a lot of groups from synagogues and from other places in the United States. And I think if you can visit, you also pay for your tour, so it helps us, and we also bring back the knowledge of what's happening and spread it around. That's very important. It's part of being the voicing us out, and helping us to show what we are doing.
Wonderful. And so, I guess my final question is, we have this conversation again a year from now. Where is it that you hope we are a year from now? How do you hope that we've grown from this difficult situation?
I'm not sure I can predict it. I think if we are doing what we are doing today, a year from now, we are good, and increasing, of course, the work. But it's not, again, I don't see the last riots as a turning point. I see it as a very bad thing. We have to think about it. I can see it both sides, also as a dramatic alarm, but also as a point of change for many people to try to do something, and to motivate them to come out from their silence, being silent, and promote and become to more programs, initiate something. So I don't think we'll see dramatic change. I think if my youth club will have 30 more kids next year, and I have a little bit more money for more programs in the gallery and the art, and more groups coming, I'll be happy. And of course, if I can do more programs for clergy and civil servants about intercultural competence, which is very, very important.
Yeah, actually, I would like to to see more people care about defending their future in a shared society. I really would like to see that the communication lines are open between all generations. Communication lines that involves not only the young generation, but also all sides of the shared society, track 1, track 2, and governmental offices, non-governmental organizations. As I said, we don't have the luxury to give up under these circumstances. We have to work hard. We have to speak loud to protect our future. This is the normal thing that we should do in this country. It's hard. It's not easy. People, we face a lot of risks. We call the normalizers. We face a lot of tension. But as I said, we don't have the luxury to give up, and we have to continue working hard.
Asaf, Tareq, I wanna thank both of you, not only for giving of your time for this conversation today, but more than that, for the work that you have done for so many years and continue to do. You know, two people who come from, who may have different narratives, but have shared ideals and who've given of their lives, among other things, to give us hope, which I think is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to people. And so I want to thank you for giving us hope, but more importantly, for giving hope to for a shared society in Israel. I want to thank all of you who have joined us today, and to thank our partners once again at the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island, the Jewish Federation of Eastern Connecticut, the Jewish Federation of Greater Hartford Jewish Community Relations Council, the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, the Jewish Federation of Western Connecticut, the Jewish Federation of the Berkshires. I hope that this program is a launching pad for other similar programs that we'll be doing together to talk about Israeli-Arab cooperation in the region. I want to thank both of you for all you do, and once again say that I hope that this period that we're in right now between Tisha B'Av, such a sad day, and Tu B'Av, a day full of love, is symbolic of the path that we're working on together to go from being strangers to being neighbors to being friends. And I want to thank both of you for your.
And we are in Eid al-Adha also.
Yes, yeah. Yes, as well. So thank you both so much, both for your time today and for the work that you do for all of us throughout the year. Thanks so much, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
It was a pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.